Hi everyone, so I'm Louisa from Cupcake Sweeties, and today I'm going to be talking you through making this gorgeous unicorn cake. So in front of me I have everything that you will need to recreate this cake. So we baked our delicious vanilla cake, and we baked that in our favourite Fat Daddy-O's tins. So the size cake that we use today is a 7-inch, but you can bake it any size as long as you bake 2 cakes and slice it into 4 layers so that you get enough height. So the easiest way to get your cakes nice and level is to slice them with a big knife on a turntable. So I find that a turntable is key to making cake decorating easier. So I slice my cakes on it, I will ice them on it, everything is done because you can move it. Life is a lot easier than trying to do it on a flat surface. So when it comes to getting nice smooth edges, the trick is to have an offset spatula. So we use the 4-inch size and a scraper. So between the two of those, you can get nice smooth edges every time. So the 3 nozzles that we will be using for the main are the Rolkem 1M, 2A and 4B. So when we're using our nozzles, we always use disposable piping bags as well. These are the 18-inch size, which are my personal favourites. So our horn, ears and eyes are all made using gum paste, and whenever we're working with the gum paste, we like to use the Sugar Crafty mats, just because they have a nice non-stick surface and they're also self-healing, so you can slice them as many times as you want and it won't get destroyed. So we use the Rolkem heart-shaped cutters for making our ears, and we also use the rainbow dust glue to assemble them. Once we had made everything, we used our favourite combination of the Rolkem dust with rose spirit to create our paint. So for the main on this cake, I used fuchsia, neon bright blue and neon bright green, but any of the Chef Master liquid gels would do the job. And we also used the Chef Master white liquid gel to lighten the base colour of our icing. And because no unicorn cake would be finished without glitter, we used the rainbow dust hologram white and one of our handy dandy glitter pumps to finish everything off. So you can buy everything you see here from our online store as a kit, or you can also buy it piece by piece. Start off by stacking our vanilla cakes and slicing them. So we'll slice each cake into 2 layers and then we'll fill them with vanilla buttercream, chill them briefly, pull them back out, put a vanilla crumb coat on, back in the fridge, put the outer layer on, we'll do the main and then we'll make the horn and you'll have your very own unicorn cake. So we're going to start off by just flipping our cakes. So we use the Fat Daddy-O's tins, they are our favourites. So once you've flipped your cakes out, we're just going to slice the top off and then slice them in half. Just rotate it on your turntable as you slice, and that should help make it nice and even. Once you've sliced your cakes, they're ready to be put onto a board. So we'll quickly wipe our turntable down, put the board on, and then we'll continue onwards. So in this bowl here, we have some of our vanilla buttercream that I've made up earlier. So with our buttercream, we make it in advance, chill it, and then bring it up to room temperature. So it makes it a better consistency to work with. So you can take a little blob on the back of the spoon, put that on the board, and that will stop our cake from sliding around. Put the base layer on. So once we've got our base layer on, we're just going to scoop some of the buttercream on top. Just taking a decent spoonful, whack that on, and then we're going to use an offset spatula just to smooth it out. And then add the next layer. Don't worry, we'll take the paper off. So just make sure that you look at it from above when you're stacking to make sure that hopefully everything is sitting straight. More buttercream. And another layer. One final layer of buttercream. And you'll notice that we've actually saved the bottom of the cake for the top. That's so that you always have a nice smooth finish, and hopefully it will have less crumbs. So we're just going to quickly run our spatula around the outside of the cake to smooth that in, and then we'll chill it. Once it's chilled for about 10 minutes, we can crumb coat. So at this stage it looks a little messy, but we'll leave it for now, put it in the fridge and come back shortly. So now that our cake is chilled and it's all firmed up, we're going to go in and put our crumb coat on. So your crumb coat is going to be a messy layer, and all it does is it seals in the crumbs so that when we go and put the final layer on, it's all nice and tidy and smooth. So piling a little bit on the top. And everyone does theirs differently, but I always find it easier with my buttercream to cover the top first and then do the sides. So once you've got quite a lip of buttercream, you can just start to work it down the sides. Don't worry about making it look pretty. Everything covered, we're going to take a scraper just to smooth it all off and get it down to the bare minimum, smooth the top off and then back into the fridge. So we always use a scraper to get nice straight edges because it makes it nice and simple. It's got a flat base, so as long as that's sitting level with your board, you should always end up with a nice straight side. So, scraper, and then just spin your turntable and keep the scraper in the same place. Every time you lift your scraper off, you want to make sure that you clean the blade, otherwise you're just going to start dragging the sugar around. So once we've got our sides looking tidy, you're going to bring the icing in from the edge of the cake towards the centre. Each time we just scrape off the excess icing onto the edge of the bowl. So it doesn't have to be perfect, as long as it's tidy and we've covered all of the crummy parts, it's good to go. So once your crumb coat's on, you want to chill it for at least 10 minutes before you go in with the final layer. So now that our cake is chilled, we're going to put the outer layer of buttercream on. So with this, because we're going to cover most of the top's not too important. What we do want though is nice smooth sides. So, big blob of icing on the top as always. And then in with our offset spatula to smooth it down. So once we've got our cake fully covered and we can't see any of the crumb layer underneath, we're going to go back in with our scraper and smooth it all off. So we've got our sides looking pretty tidy, so now we're going to smooth off the top again. So when you smooth your top, always drag in from the outside, hit the top and then drag to the centre. What you don't want to do is start from the side and roll it in, otherwise you'll get curved edges instead of nice sharp edges. from the outside towards the centre, scraping off each time. So the trick to getting a really nice smooth finish with buttercream is heat. So what we usually do is just run the blade under hot water till it's nice and warm, dry it off, and then go around one final time, and the heat will help melt the butter so you get a beautiful smooth finish. So when you do that outer layer, you want to try and do the whole thing in one motion. So I always start with my hand away from me and then bring it right the way around. Otherwise, every time you stop and start, you'll get a little drag line in the cake. So our sides we're happy with. We're just going to quickly tidy up the top again. All I'm really worried about is the edges, because the centre piece is all going to be covered. Okay, so now we're going to make the 3 different colours that we're going to use for our unicorn's mane. So we're just using the same icing. I'm going to split it into 3 bowls, colour it using the Chef Master liquid gels, and then we're going to use 3 different nozzles to pipe. Scoop some into each bowl. You'll find that colouring your buttercream is a lot easier if you've whitened it first. That way the colours will be more true. Otherwise everything will have a slight yellow tone. So I just used the Chef Master whitener and just poured it in as I was beating it to get it nice and white. So for our unicorn we want more pastel tones, so we should use a drop of each of our colours. So we have neon bright blue, fuchsia and neon green. And just mix them through. So we're going to be using 3 different nozzles to pipe our mane, so 1 for each colour. If you're doing this yourself, you can do all the same colour or you can do all the same nozzle. We just like to mix ours up a bit, it just makes it look a little more fun. So we're using the Wilton 2A, the Wilton 4B, and last but not least, the Wilton 1M. So you're going to take your handy dandy piping bags. So we're using the 18-inch bags. You can use the 12s, but you might have to refill them. So I prefer the 18s. So you're going to take your bag, nip the tip off. So when you're filling your piping bags, always fold them back. That way, once it's full, you're not going to have icing all around the edges, making a mess. Squeeze the nozzle in place, and then you can scoop your buttercream in. So now we have our 3 colours ready to go. It's time for the fun part, piping it on our unicorn. So we're going to start with the Wilton 1M nozzle. So it's our pink. And we're going to find the centre of what we want to be the front of our cake. We're going to pipe a rose there, and then going to cover the whole top and pipe some down the side as well for the mane. So to pipe a rose with the 1M nozzle, you just want to do a spiral, starting in the centre and spiral outwards. So we're going to start, my centre's here, and just squeeze and spiral around, like so. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing all over the top. And then our main is going to go from the centre back off to one side. So we're going to start the rose again at the top and more roses all the way down. So we always start with the 1M and the roses first, just because they are the biggest, and then we use the other two colours to fill in the gaps. So just because I like things symmetrical, I always put a blob with the 4B on either side of that front rose before I fill in the rest. Like so. And then just go to town, putting blobs anywhere. Same thing down the side. Now we're going to go in with our third and final colour and the 2A nozzle and fill in these gaps. If there's anywhere that we're not happy with, we can go back in with either of the other two colours at the end. Now all that's left to do is add the horn, ears and eyes, and your unicorn cake is complete. So now we're going to make our unicorn horn, ears and eyes. So we're going to start by rolling the horn. For this you'll need some gum paste. So I'm using the 7 Nice gum paste, and you'll want to take a chunk and just knead it in your hands. If you find that your hands get a little bit sticky, we use the Perfect Finish cream. You can just take a little bit, dip your finger in, rub it on kind of like moisturiser, and it'll just stop everything from sticking to you. So once your gum paste is nice and soft and malleable, I'm going to roll it into a ball. Try and get rid of as many cracks as possible, otherwise when you roll your horn they might show. And then we're going to roll it out into a long strip, but you want to taper it so that one end is narrower than the other. So when you roll, you want to roll with your hands just on a slight angle rather than flat, and that will naturally taper it down on one side. Once you've rolled your strip, you're going to want a polystyrene block, or if you don't have one, an apple will do the same job. We have our polystyrene. You're going to want a wooden skewer. Just stab that straight in, and then we're going to wrap our strip around the skewer to form our horn. Starting at the base, just wrapping our way up. Then you're going to want to take a sharp knife and on an angle cut in and cut this tail piece off. You're then going to want to take your horn very gently, pick it up, lay it on its side, and you want to roll in one direction. Get to the edge of the mat, just pull it back towards you. And you'll notice that this turns it from a round horn to a more sort of straight edge. Keep rolling until you're happy with how it looks, and then we're just going to put the skewer back inside our horn and place it back onto our poly block. At this point you can put it aside and leave it to dry. We generally like to leave ours overnight at least. However, if you need it in a rush, just add some more Tylose powder to your gum paste and it will set up nice and firm fast. So now we're going to make our eyes and our ears. So back into the gum paste, and we're going to start by making the ears. So get it nice and soft again, and then back into a ball. Place it on your mat, rolling pin, and just roll it out. So when you roll it out, you don't want to roll it too thin. If your gum paste is too thin, it's going to struggle to support the ears when we fold them up and they'll flop. So you're going to take a heart cutter. This is from the Wilton set. So they're double-sided. So on one side you have the straight cutter, and on the other side it's fluted. So we're going to use the straight side today and just press down, give it a wiggle, pop it out. Repeat again for the second ear. So once we've cut our ears out, we're just going to take a little bit of edible glue and a paintbrush, and on the top of your heart, you're going to put a little bit of glue on either side and pinch together. And we have an ear. Same thing with the second ear. Pinch together. And you can sit those off and let them dry. So for the eyes today, we're going to be using a silicone mould. More gum paste. With your mould, you'll find, because it's quite fine and it's not very deep, if you quickly put just a little bit of the perfect finish in, just take some on your finger and then just rub it through. It'll make it a lot easier to get it out afterwards. So you're going to break off a chunk of gum paste, get it in your hands and gently press it in. Once your mould is full, you want to make sure that you can see all of the edges clearly. Otherwise, when you flip it out, it's going to have a weird frill. Eyes are made. Okay, so now that we've made our eyes and our ears, we're going to let them dry up for a minute and then we will paint them. So today we're going to be painting our unicorn horn and ears silver. We're going to be using the Rolkem dust and mixing them with rose spirit to make a paint. You can take your dust. This is very technical. Use the back of your paintbrush and just scrape a little bit into your bottle. Rose spirit. And just pour enough in until you get a nice paint-like consistency. Don't panic if it's too runny. Because the rose spirit is alcohol, it will evaporate off quite fast. And you can use it once it's dried down a little. Mix them together. I find it's easier when painting the horn for it to be a little bit runnier, so that way it'll go in and it'll fill all of the cracks. Okay, and then, so you're going to start painting from the top. Doesn't matter if it runs down. If you're not happy with the consistency of your paint, you can always add some more alcohol to it. Fine, the rest of it. So once it's covered, you want to let it dry down. It might look a little bit patchy at first, but it only takes a couple of minutes to dry, and then you can go over it with a second layer to get it looking nice and smooth. So with our eyes and ears, we're going to paint the whole eyes. We're going to cover them. With the ears, when we paint them, we're going to leave a little white strip around the outside. So back in with your Rolkem and Rose Spirit. Just go to town. Don't worry about making a mess of your mat. It will wipe off with a cloth later. And the great thing about the alcohol is because it evaporates off so fast, it's not going to make the gum paste all sticky and tacky. So with our ears, I'm just going to paint on the inside, just leave a little strip of white. Same thing with ear 2. Just like the horn, if you're not happy with that, you can always add another coat once it's dry. Okay. So now we're just going to put a second layer of the Rolkem paint over our horn. Put a second layer on now. If there's parts that are still a bit patchy or that you're not happy with, wait till it's dried completely, because the Rolkem will always dry back down to a powdered form. So once it's dried completely, you can just take a dry brush and dust off any patchy areas. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces made. It's time to put it all together. So first up, we're going to put the horn on the top and then the ears. And then last but not least, we'll put the little eyes on the front. So if you just gently lift up your horn, you're going to want to take the skewer out and stab that smack bang in the centre. Just be careful when you put your horn on your cake that the seam goes at the back, not the front. Gently place it down. It already starts to look like a unicorn. So with our ears, we're just going to gently press them into the buttercream, like so. That even. And then last but not least, we just need to glue our eyes onto the front of our cake. So I find with putting the eyes on, it's a lot easier to be down at the same level as your cake so that you can get them in the same place. Edible glue, dip your brush in onto the back of our little eye. Gently press it into place. Then comes the interesting part of getting the second eye to match the first eye. I can always get the first one, fine. Second one and eye, not always free. Magic! So now we have our completed unicorn cake. Every unicorn needs a little bit of sparkle. So we have some glitter and one of our beautiful little glitter pumps. I'm just going to spray some of that over the top. And that is it. You have made your very own unicorn cake. So you now know how to make a unicorn cake. But if your family's not into unicorns or your kids want something different, it's really easy to use this base style of cake and change it up. So once you take out the horn, you can do pretty much anything with it. So with that same base, you can create a horse, you can create a reindeer, you can create a cat by adding some whiskers to the front. So you can find everything that you'll need to create this cake over at cupcakesweeties.co.nz. If you have a go and try it out for yourself, post your photos either on Facebook or Instagram with the hashtag #CupcakeSweetiesUnicornCake. We would love to see what you made. Take a bow. Hi everyone. So
I didn't record.
So in front of me, like take 523. Hey everyone, so I'm Louisa from Cupcake Sweeties.